Hello, I'm Ben. Welcome to the channel. So today I'm going to talk about the election that we're going through. The year is 2024 and we have a presidential election coming up, and the candidates may be less than impressive, but what I want to talk about was the reality that we live in and the people that serve offices in this country. So for example, whether you vote Democrat or Republican does not matter to me. The situation I'm talking about is more about the age of the people that are representing us as a society. So for example, in this presidential election, we have Donald Trump, who will be, if elected, 82 by the time he's done with his second term as president in office. And then, of course, you have Joe Biden, who will be 86 should he win this election in his second term in office. So what I want to talk about is representation. So what exactly and who exactly do those two people represent? Okay, so use Biden, as he mentioned over and over again. He's been in government his entire life. Depending on what you think, you can actually look and see what he's put into law or what he's written from a bill standpoint that got voted into law, etc. throughout his lifetime, and you'll find out that not a lot has been done that has actually been voted into law. And then you look at Donald Trump. Okay, so Biden's been a lifelong politician, which is a worst case scenario in this country, and it's what's driving the country down the wrong road. It's why we give trillions of dollars, that's right, trillions of dollars to other countries. And it's also why those people get richer and richer. Because, see, a bill is so many pages now that it can't be read. 40,000 pages, 12,000 pages, 3,000 pages, 2,000 pages. That's not something that people are going to read cover to cover before they vote on it. Okay, I think a bill should be limited to 25 pages tops. That way you can't add on all the extras that people add on for their little party politics. But think about that. A bill would be 20 pages. That's the limitation. You can't write it longer than that. So what's in it is in it, and everyone can read that amount of documentation. So that's the first piece around Joe Biden. Think about this too. He's a millionaire. So he's been in government the majority of his adult life, but he's a millionaire. So who does he represent? And one, how does $170,000 a year make someone as rich as he is? And then you can look at all the other people that are in office as well. Lifelong politicians are a bad idea. That's not how the government was set up. The idea was that if someone was elected into the government, that they would serve their 2 terms, and then they would go back into the citizen population and were expected to go back and survive life as a productive citizen. Now, what our government has done is if people have served a term, we now pay them for life, which is ridiculous, because what it does, it creates a noble class. It creates a class of people that don't have to work to earn their living, right? I mean, many people have done consulting and those types of things after being in a position like that, but that's the current state. And then let's talk about Donald Trump. So Donald Trump is a millionaire and now a billionaire, and has been a billionaire for the past 2 decades. So who exactly in this country does he represent? Someone who's been a billionaire his entire lifetime. And a millionaire his entire lifetime. So Donald Trump is impressed in the fact that he has had business success. Basically, when he was a young man, he got $1 million loan from his dad, and he is now a billionaire. That shows that he has success and knows how to have success in business with money. So that can be said. Here's the other thing about Trump, and I don't mean just specifically him, but he is a guy that was not a lifelong politician. People that aren't lifelong politicians are exactly what our government's built to do, because you take people who have not lived in office their entire life, that come into office, and they bring a different understanding of business and communication, etc., like he has done. And that's why so many people like him, is he's not a politician. Politicians who spend their lives in politics talking half-truths and partial truths. They'll say things that aren't completely true, and they do that purposely, because these days there's no journalism. And that's the other thing that's unfortunate. Since the 1980s, early 90s, journalism is dead in America. Everything that's out there now is political jargon. Everything that out there now has opinion on it. When I was a young man, we'd watch the news and they'd just give you the facts. There were no opinions. Try to do that now. You have one that's so far on one side, being CNN rather, You have one that's so far on the opposite side, being Fox News. There's no real news. It's a bunch of noise and opinion, because they basically, you're not supposed to think for yourself. So here's the point that I want to make. Whether you vote Democrat or Republican, are you 80 years old? Have you been a lifelong politician, or are you a billionaire? If you say no to all those things, then how do either one of these candidates represent you? And that's the point that I want to bring across, is that in America, we're being played to the point where we play party politics, where either you're right or you're left, you're liberal or you're conservative. And if you're either, you hate the other, which is ridiculous. The idea is not supposed to hate anyone. The idea is that no matter, even on our differences, and our differences are what makes us stronger. Like, America is the strongest country in the world because we have people from every origin. And obviously, as a population, by doing that, we're healthier, because things that would damage a specific sector of the population, the more differentiality, the more variety that you have, the healthier you become as a whole, as a group, as a herd, right? So that's what you have to think about when you're thinking about the nation and why it should work. You should have liberal and conservative. Everybody should be both liberal and conservative. You should have liberal and conservative point of views, no matter what your situation is, as long as it's constitutional and within your beliefs. And that's the biggest piece of what I wanted to say here today. The focus in America has gotten off of rights and Constitution. You got one side wanting to take this set of rights from someone else, and you got another side taking this set of rights, wanting to take this set of rights from someone else. That is ridiculous. In America, we are the freest country in the world. We're the most taxed country in the world. And we give away more money than anyone else in the world, which makes no sense. So you have taxes through the roof, you have inflation through the roof, and you have our government giving money away. And that was what was interesting about the presidential back and forth last night. They call it a debate. It wasn't a debate at all. Every question that was asked was ignored. They just wanted to throw mud at each other, and it was quite ridiculous watching two grandpas throw mud at each other. But at the end of the day, we have to think about how we're voting and what we want to happen. There should be term limitations on everything in this country. Congress, all those senators and everything else should not be able to serve longer than 2 terms. If those are limited, and I think that's a mistake that the forefathers of this country made. If those are limited and you can only serve 2 terms, the situation will be different. And it would be different because you'd have new blood, and people wouldn't be planning to live in that office for their entire lives. And here's the thing. James A. Garfield said in 1888, all free governments are managed by the combined wisdom and folly of people. And George Bernard Shaw said in 1902, democracy substitutes election by the incompetent many for appointment by the corrupt few. So he says democracy substitutes an election by the incompetent many for an appointment of the corrupt few. I think that's what we're seeing more and more these days. Rutherby Hayes in 1885 said politics and law are, or rather should be, merely results, merely the expression of what the people wish. I don't think that's what this is anymore. And when you look at a presidential debate, and both candidates, neither one of them represents me in any way, shape, or form, because they haven't lived a life where they've had to work like I have. And if you're out there and you're watching this video, have they lived a life like you did? I mean, what's your background? You're not a billionaire. You haven't been a politician for 40 years or 50 years. So if you haven't been either one of those things, how do those people represent you? And how are they leading the country down the path that we want it to go? So that's just a brief video on the debate yesterday. I think these are things that haven't been called out enough. Term limitations on everything is necessary, because otherwise we're going to have this as a repetitive piece, and people representing us in their 80s is a problem. Look at Congress and look how old these people are. They're disconnected from the generations now. They're disconnected from what we do for a living now. They're disconnected on the viewpoint of how the global economy impacts our own economy, which is how you explain the inflation that we're suffering at the moment. So there's my ramble about the presidential debate last night. It's pitiful. No matter who you vote for, these choices are trash. At the end of the day, one is probably better than the other, but what's that saying? Lesser of two evils is not how you should have to elect a candidate for the most powerful position in the world. I'm Ben. If you like subjects like this, please subscribe. Be good.